or are we waiting for some other?
No, I think
We'll
everyone is
start,
ready.
right?
You do your magic, Deepak.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on discovering the joy of statistics. Now, we all have had a taste of statistics when we were there in class 10 or 12 or graduate level, or some of us might be expert in statistics. Okay. So coming into this data analytics and data science, many a times you will go through internet and browse and understand that what are the requirements to for becoming a data analyst or a data scientist, or moving into this domain. And one of the most talked requirement that people say is understanding statistics and the knowledge of statistics. Okay. So I'll start this webinar by putting couple of questions in front of you guys, and I would like you to participate in this webinar, and let us make this webinar an interactive session. And at the end of the webinar, at least let us take a couple of learnings with us. Okay. So let me quickly put a question in front of you guys. Do you feel that you need statistics for the purpose of a data analysis and a data science? Okay, so this is my first question. So I would request you guys to put that in the chat box, in the comment box. Do you feel that you require statistics for the purpose of data science? Yes or no? And if yes, how much statistics you require? Everyone can know, put this their response in the chat box comment, and we will read through. So Anmol says yes, we require. Ritesh is also saying yes. Neha saying yes. Arpita saying yes. Rucha saying yes. Monica says most of analysis in finance through the help of statistics. Polemy says statistics one of the pillars of data analytics. Almost everywhere data is huge. Okay, so by going through the response, we are well aware that we require statistics in data science. Okay, but how much? How much is where people uh, forget to understand and draw a boundary. What quantity of data science or what quantity of statistics you would require for the purpose of data analysis or data science? So we require statistics, that is for sure. But do we have to become a statistics expert? That is what my another question is. We require statistics, but do we have to become an expert in data science, I mean in statistics basically, to learn data science? And I'm getting response as no, 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 not an expert. We need some part of it. Correct. So we need not be a statistics expert, but we have to learn statistics only that much, which would help me sail through my data science task. Okay, having said that, learning statistics gives us a very good platform in understanding the data. So what we call as exploratory data analysis, where we try to explore the data, where we try to understand the nature of the data. That is where we require the power of statistics mostly. And when we do a predictive analytics, obviously there is a lot of probability, but the no the objective of this session that we are conducting today is not to make you, fearful towards statistics. And you will see that we will take some basic statistical concepts. We have been learning about mean, median, and mode. These three concepts we have been learning throughout our life. So we will take this simple three concepts of statistics and we'll see how effectively we can derive insights using these three concepts. Okay, so let us go ahead, and I have broken my today's webinar into two parts. First is where we will discuss about the concepts, okay, and secondly we will go towards Python, where we do those apply those concepts for the purpose of deriving insights from the data using Python. But having said that, we will not go through the codes, we will go through the concepts. And the objective today for our session is we to make you comfortable with statistics, to basically to marry you with statistics, because statistics is that part, mathematics is that part. So we browse on internet and we see that we need statistics, we need mathematics, we need linear algebra, what not, to understand and become a data scientist or a data analytics. Okay, but those having gone through the website and gone through those heavy words, you might feel a little afraid and little hesitant to go into that field. But just understand, guys, after going through this session you will feel comfortable about data science and the statistics that we generally learn in our data science curriculum. Okay, so Bridge, I would require an assistance from you. Bridge, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Yes, Deepak. What?
Yeah. I'll just take the control. I think someone's
Yeah.
audio is echoing.
Yeah, Deepak.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Are you able to see the screen now?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Yeah. So now, so I'll try to explain the concepts, those three concepts: mean, median, and mode, and then you will see how we can derive insights using those three simple concepts in statistics. Okay, and that's where Bridge, I would require your help, that we will use hypothetical numbers. So the calculation, and you'll have to assist me.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. So first thing that we will see is basically we'll understand. We'll, I guess I request everyone to be on mute, because there's echoing sound and a lot of noise disturbance on the other side. Yeah. No, we all have seen and understood something called central tendency. Okay, central tendency. Now, what is this central tendency? What is this central tendency that we are talking, or we generally talk in statistics? So statistics, wherever you go, whichever book you open, first or almost first, second, or third within these three chapters, you will find the concept of central tendency. What is this central tendency? What is the central tendency? I mean, you can write it in the chat box, and Bridge, if you can help me read the comments that we are getting from the participants. What is the central tendency that we generally talk about in the textbooks in statistics?
Yeah, so Vishnu says that when most of the events tend to move towards the average, and Motwani sir says that do we have no
So
this is something to
basically, this tends to move towards the average.
variance. Harish says the variations always in range near to mean. Average. Arpita says mean.
Variation, and I am getting mean. What else? Is there anything else?
Average, mean is what? Nothing else.
Okay, so we have got the response that tends to move towards the average. Okay, we'll come to it. This is not average that we generally talk about. We basically confuse ourselves that mean and average are the same. Okay, we'll talk about mean and average in some time. Variations, no. Mean is basically a component. Mean is basically a component or a what you can say, subpart of central tendency. Okay, now let me explain you what is this central tendency. Central tendency, say you have these three numbers, or I can say 5 numbers. Within these 5 numbers, I want to find, within these 5 numbers, I want to find which number, and this we term it as class 1. Class 1, or say team 1, anything. Okay, so this is basically a group of numbers. Okay, and we have named it to be a class 1 or a team 1. Now, we want to identify and find out of these 5 numbers that are there, which number is the most representative, we have to understand this concept, most representative. Okay, it's not the average. And why it's not the average, we'll see to it. Okay, so out of these 5 numbers, when we try to find out which number is the most representative of the lot, we call it as measures of central tendency. Why central? Because we want to find the center of my group, or the most common occurring, we can say most representative or most common occurring. Okay, most common occurring number. Okay, so this is called central tendency. We try to find out which number is the representative element of the entire data that we have. And why it is important? Why it is important to find central tendency or the most representative number from our data set? Can we have the answer, please? Why we try to find a central tendency or central tendency numbers from our data?
So
Yeah.
Aparna says that it's a representative of the class.
Yes, it's a representative of the class. And why do we do that?
Harish says to know the probable results with real numbers.
Now, the simple answer to my question is to have a better understanding of the data. Okay, to have the better understanding of the data, or what is the central part of my data set where most of my numbers are located. We'll see in our example, Python example. Okay, so this central tendency has 3 concepts. Okay, broadly it has mean, it has median, and thirdly it has got mode. Okay, these are the 3 broad concepts we cover in this measures of central tendency. Okay, and all these three numbers, all these three concepts basically try to give me the representative number, I am reiterating it, representative number, okay, of the entire data set that we have. Okay, now we'll go directly to Python and we will see how we can get this mean, median and mode and understand the concepts in a much better way. Okay, is my screen visible, Bridge?
If you want us to read the code, then no, but we can see the graphs at least.
Okay, let me zoom in
A little more. Bus,
I think.
now it's readable. Yeah.
Okay, so what is central tendency? Central tendency is basically the estimates of location. Okay, I am trying to identify where is my number located, where are my most of the numbers located, and I'm trying to find the central point, and that point where most of my data points are located and accumulated is called nothing but central tendency. And when we try to find that central point, we term it as measures of central tendency or estimating central tendency. Okay, so we have got this concept right, why we call it central tendency. Okay, because we try to identify the centermost point of my data, the point where majority of my data points are located. Okay, so let us quickly go and understand the concept of mean. So these are primarily the three libraries that I have imported in my data set, and we'll
Deepak.
yeah, Bridge. Yeah.
I just wanted to add something, and I'm feeling very itching. I'm getting itching to add something, Deepak.
Yes,
So,
yes, you can go ahead.
okay. So I think let me just mute all of. Okay. Now, if I have a shop, if I have a kirana shop in maybe, and I have 10 customers, and the only thing which I do is I go to the shop at 8 o'clock in the morning, do all my billings in a society, which is maybe of around 100 member society. So I deal with all of them, and I call the day off at around 9 o'clock, and I do it maybe 6 days a week, 365 days for the entire year. And I maybe kirana shop, I sell all whatever atta or etc whatever it is. In that case, since I am the owner of the business and I am the person who is running the entire show, dealing with the customer, I have a very fine sense of what is happening in the business. But if my customers from 100 they become 10,000, become so much that I am detached from the business. I'm not involved in the business in terms of daily operation. And the way I want to make a sense of what is happening in the business is through numbers which come to me, because I have lost touch with the customer. I cannot get in touch with 10,000 customers. So numbers in a way, so wherever the businesses are large and the team or the management team or whatever is not able to interact, do the operation themselves, at the same time they want to get, they will have to have a sense of what is happening in my business at such a large scale. And the only thing today, at least, which will help you in understanding what is happening in the business is numbers which generated. So we have, so in case of a kirana shop, we have a customer and the owner, and he has got all the sense. But if the business becomes big, then it becomes customer or operation and number and then the management. So management had to deduce everything from numbers, because numbers. And then when it comes to numbers, the science of number is statistics. So I will have to understand that whatever number is coming from the system, whatever you're using, what that number represent. Or if I want to get a sense of what is happening in the business, how to look at the number is where the statistics comes into picture and the importance of statistics comes in.
Correct.
Right. So yeah. So I felt to get add the dimension.
That's yes. That's very good example wherein we understand the concept of statistics. And when my numbers are, say 5, 10 numbers, it's very easy to see the numbers and understand what is going around. But when it becomes big, and we generally talk about big data nowadays, okay, and when we have this concept of big data, therein lies the importance of understanding statistical concepts and using those statistical concepts for the purpose of understanding those data. So very well said, Brice. Thanks for giving such a good example. And we will go ahead. So using these three libraries, we will perform our task. So I have created a sample data set which consists of four numbers: 3, 4, 1, and 2. Okay, and I have stored these numbers in a variable called mean1. Okay, and in this particular code, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find the mean of these four numbers. Okay, the mean of these four numbers, which basically is mean dot mean. So mean1 is basically the variable name dot mean function. So dot mean function is the function which is there in Python, which will give me the mean value. So this mean value, this four number, the mean of these four number comes out to be 2.5. Why? How it comes 2.5? How it comes 2.5 is basically we add all these numbers, okay, and then divide by the number of elements that are there in this particular group. Okay, in this group. So this gives me a value of 2.5. So my mean here is 2.5. Now I'll quickly put a quick question in front of you guys. Do you think mean and average is same? Do you think the mean and average is same? Because when we go and basically find
Richa
the
says
average,
yes.
we do the same thing, right? We do the same thing. We sum up all the data points and then divide by the number of data points.
So Monica says yes, Avik says yes, Lekha says yes, so everyone. Trupti says no.
The
Amol
answer
says
is
yes. Yeah.
okay. Okay. So what do you think, Bridge? I mean,
I think
do you think that the mean and average is the same?
mean and average. So there are three ways of calculating averages. Mean, average. Yeah, it's same. So mean, median, mode, mean, a simple average or a weighted average. So mean is a broader. There are various ways by which you can calculate mean, and average is one of them. It means simple average.
I beg to say that the people who have said that it's yes, they are incorrect. Mean and average is not the same. Mean and average is not the same. Just understand the definition. Okay, just understand the definition. What does average tells me? Whenever we try to find average, average tells me what is the, say for example, the average salary. Okay, the average salary. When we find the average salary, we say the average salary of this particular department is say XYZ. Okay, but when we say mean, okay, the mean of this, the mean salary of this department is say 2000. That means we are saying that most of the people getting salary in that department fall within those 2000 range. Okay, now you understood there is conceptual difference between mean and average. Bachpan se we have been understanding that mean and average is the same, but by going through the definition itself, you will understand. When we try to find the average salary, we say that the average salary of this entire department is say 2000. Okay, but when we say mean, the formula for computation of mean and average is the same. That is why most of us get confused that mean and average, they are the same, but they're not the same. Average gives you the average number, okay, the average number of the entire lot, and mean gives you the representative number, basically the number which is the representative class of the entire data points. The formula for computation of mean and average is the same. That is why most of us gets confused that mean and average is the same. Okay, so this is a homework for all of you who has said yes as well as who has said no, that you go and research a more into the difference between mean and average and try to decode why mean is not average and why average is not mean. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now my mean of these four numbers is 2.5. Okay, I'll go through this particular graph a little later, but now let me introduce another data point in this particular four numbers that we have used. Okay, so what I've done is I have created another data set which is named mean2 and added a data point such as 200, such as 200. Now when we try to find the mean of this particular variable, we see the mean got jumped from 2.5 to 42.2. 2.5 to 42.2. Okay, why has it jumped from 2.5 to 42.2? Need quick answers, guys.
Deepak, you can consider me as other participants, huh? So,
Yes.
because we have one number which is far bigger, which has come in and has
Okay.
distorted the entire data set.
Yes. So it is not distorted, Bridge. Basically, in our real life, if you see any organization, so if you try to find the average salary of a particular department, you say you get it, say $100. Okay. Now when we try to find the average salary of the entire organization, so you have CEOs and executives who are paid a lot. Okay. So when we try to find the average salary of the organization, obviously the mean salary would be, you know, much higher value than that of a particular department. So what inference we deduce from this phenomena, that when my mean was, when we had considered 3, 5, 1 and 2, my mean was 2.5, but when we introduced, you know, a bigger number, okay, a bigger number which is 200, okay, which is very far off from these four numbers, you see, very far off from 3, 5, 1 and 2, the mean increased from 2.5 to 42.2, which means that mean is basically impacted by any outlier in my data points. And what is an outlier? Outlier is a data point which is not the representative of the entire lot. So these 3, 5, 1 and 2, they are very much near to each other, right? But this 200 is very far off from this 3, 5, 1, 2. That is why we call this 200 to be an outlier. Okay, and whenever we have this outlier in our data set, okay, whenever we have this outlier in our data set, my mean tends to follow this outlier. My mean wants to go to this outlier and catch his hand. That is why we saw that the mean of 2.5 got increased to 42.2. Okay, so this is a simple concept, you know, where we find in books, but we very rarely we try to understand why my mean got increased from 2.5 to 42.2. Okay, because I have an outlier in my data set which is very far off from my normal data point. So these are my normal points and this is the abnormal point. Okay, that is why my mean got influenced with this 200 number and moved towards this 200 number. See, from 2.5 it is moving towards 200, that is 42.2. So one inference that we can derive from this concept is my mean gets impacted from the outlier that we have in our data set. Now we will go with these two graphs. When I plot this number, this variable 3, 4, 1 and 2, you see I get a very good bell curve like shape, okay. And we all know what is this bell curve. In our organization we have this concept of normalization when we go for appraisal and everything. So this is bell curve. Okay, we will not cover the concept of bell curve here, but You see the curve is very smooth. It is going in the middle. In the middle, it's touching the peak, and then it's coming down. It's like a bell. But when we try to plot this particular number, this particular variable, you see a distorted graph, and see my right side has got little stretched towards the right. Okay, stretched towards the right. Thus we say, here we have seen numerically that my mean gets influenced with the outlier, but here we are seeing it graphically. We have plotted, we have used this KDE plot. Okay, there's a type of plot which we use for the purpose of understanding the data, the type of data that we have. So you see my curve has moved towards positive side, towards 200, towards the right. Okay, so this particular curve is called normal distribution. Okay, and this curve which is moving towards right is called as right skewed diagram, right skewed curve. Okay, it is, see, it is moving towards the right, stretched towards the right. Okay, that is why it's called rightly skewed, right skewed data. Okay, and this is normal data. Okay, now let us see if we introduce something like negative 150. Okay, you see my mean got influenced and it has moved towards minus 150. Okay, now my mean has become minus 27.8. Cool. And when we try to plot it, you see now it is moved and stretched towards left, because the power of minus 150 is greater than these four numbers. That is why this negative 150 is pulling the mean towards itself. That is why my KDE plot has stretched towards left, towards negative side. Okay, so this four concepts, so everywhere you see a KDE plot, you will find right skewed data, normal distribution, left skewed data, but very rarely you will find a good explanation as to why this is right skewed data or why it is called left skewed data. Okay, so what are the concepts that we have learned here? We have learned how to find mean. Mean is not average. Okay, then we have seen mean is getting influenced by the outlier. We saw what is this KDE plots are. Now, this is normal distributed plot. This is a right skewed plot, and this is a left skewed plot. Okay. Now, if I use this number, and based on this number, you let us assume that this is the salary of that particular department, 3, 5, 1, 2, and 200. Okay, and the mean of this 5 number comes up to be 42.2, and I say the mean salary of this entire organization is 42.2. Okay, do you think will we be able to derive correct insights about the general salary about the organization? Bridge, I'm waiting an answer from you.
No, it will give a very distorted picture.
Correct. So
it will by reading this, you assume that on an average all 6 employees are getting 42.5, that's the impression which you get.
Correct, which is totally incorrect. Okay, which is totally incorrect. So whenever we have very high positive data or a very high negative data, the picture that we are getting or the insights that we derive from our data becomes distorted and becomes incorrect. That is not the representative class. So this is giving me an impression that the mean salary of my organization is 42.2 and the organization is very well, it's better off, it is performing like anything. But when we see the data, we see, acha, only because of this executive salary of 200 that my mean salary is 42.2, which is actually incorrect. You see the rest of the 4 employees, they are getting very less. Okay, so this picture basically gives me the correct representation of the data, the correct insight. So what we have to do whenever we get this kind of a problem, we move towards a concept that is called a trimmed mean. That is called trimmed mean. Mean is there, okay, but we are moving towards the concept which is called trimmed mean. Okay, so what we do in this trimmed mean, what we do is, let us see, we have created data. This is the data wherein I have both numbers, negative numbers as well as positive high numbers, and the representative series are the common numbers that I have, 3, 5, 1, 2 and 9. Okay, and when I find the mean of these numbers, okay, I get the mean to be 97.0 or 97. Okay, now as a data scientist or a data analyst, the first thing I know is my mean gets influenced by the outliers. Okay, so I have to remove those outliers, I have to chop off those outliers. This chopping off those outliers and coming up with the mean is called as trimmed mean. Okay, we are trimming the outliers, we are chopping off the outliers. Okay, so in our scenario these are my outliers: minus 300, minus 150, 200, 500, 700. Okay, so what we do is, second step, I am using this function dot trim underscore mean function, which basically trims my data set, trims the outlier that are present in the data set, and I can get the mean of my data. And what is this number? 0.1. 0.1 is the percentage. I am telling Python that 10% data from the left and 10% data from the right, you chop it off and give me the mean. So when I chop 10% from the left and 10% from the right, you see my mean has got reduced from 97 to 71.25. Okay, now what is happening is, this number 71.25 is somewhat giving me a representative number. It's not correct, but somehow my mean has got reduced from 97 to 71.25. Why? Because I have chopped off 10% of my data from the left and 10% of my data from the right. So somewhat outliers have been removed from my data. Okay, that is why my mean has become less. Okay, now I'm chopping off 20% of my data, and see my mean got further reduced from 71.25 to 36.66. So what is happening here, guys? What are we trying to achieve? We are trying to achieve the correct mean of the data. Okay, the correct representation of your data. Okay, we are trying to chop off the outliers from our data sets which are available here, and we are trying to find the most representative number. Okay, so this is the concept of trimmed mean. This
Uh,
is the concept. Yeah.
Sorry, Deepak again. I mean, this is amazing, Deepak. Huh? And I'll tell you why I'm saying this, because
Yeah.
normally what we do is when we work on maybe spreadsheets, right? And
Yeah.
all of a lot of people use spreadsheets to do our working. So what we do is normally whenever we get any data, the first thing we do is we do an average. We do equal to
Correct.
average, take, and we get a number. And then we compare this average versus maybe a past year's average or some other data. Then we see there's a gap.
Correct.
So the next step becomes
Correct.
when you try to go into the data and see that why my data has changed, and quite often or not you have some outliers because of which the data gets changed. So what you do is we come out with an explanation that there is some number, ye number iska ye ho gaya tha, and because of which the data has got changed. And then
Correct.
if we go a step further, then what we do is we, instead of maybe we get mean, median and mode, and then we figure it out ki
Correct.
outlier hai ki nahi hai. Because if we see if the mode is and mean में average but gap बहुत ज़्यादा है, then we identify it's an outlier, and then we just leave our analysis to there. It gets end.
Correct.
And that is where a tool like Python and what you're doing, trim mean, because I was not aware that you can just trim 10% of outlier by just putting this formula and you get a representative number. And this also reflects the power of using, I mean, you're using Excel or any a rudiment, I won't say rudimentary tool, but the normal tool which you normally use for analytics, vis-a-vis when you use a specialized tool like Python, which is meant for data analytics. There's a difference of because this is what it comes out when you go actually use specialized tool which is meant to be used for data analytics. Okay, yeah.
Correct, Brett. Yeah. So thanks for the explanation, Bridget. And basically in our real life scenario, we find these issues, right? And when we have this difference, we go up to the manager and when we say, okay, last year my average was this, or say my mean was this, and this year my average has fallen, or have gone up. But we tend to forget this concept of outlier. Okay. And many a times based on what you suggest to your manager, the decision is taken which is actually turns out to be incorrect. We see that, or we keep on reading in the website, on the newspapers, that most of the data science projects or the data analysis project fails. Why do they fail? Okay, they fail because they lack statistical concepts in their analysis. Okay, they lack statistical concepts. Statistics, guys, is meant for numbers, and data analysis we do for numbers. Okay, so if you are not trying to marry the numbers with statistical concepts, one project you might succeed, two project you might succeed, but third project you will fail miserably. Okay, and you will find a lot of trouble in explaining your data and in understanding your data, and you'll not be able to derive good and correct business insights, which in turn will will lead to incorrect decision making by the top management. Okay, so this is basically the concept of mean and trimmed mean that we have uh, seen. Now we have this issue. Okay, we have the mean which is getting impacted by outliers, and we have this concept of trimmed mean. But then statisticians thought that why not come up with another measure of central tendency which can be robust in the sense that it is not influenced by the outliers. Okay, they have this concept of trimmed mean, but they thought, okay, now somebody derived this concept of trimmed mean, but other statisticians, they thought, okay, no, he has come up with a concept, but let me come up with a very good and a better concept than trimmed mean. Okay, now the problem with trimmed mean is, now I am explaining the concept and I'm explaining the problem that is there in our this thing that is there in that concept. Okay, so that is how you have to learn, guys. You have to understand the concepts, and then you have to understand the problem with that with those concepts, and which led to formation of another concepts. Okay, so the problem with this trimmed mean was, you see this percentage. Now this fixing the percentage is again is a very big dilemma. What percentage of chopping should I do? Okay, what percentage of chopping should I do with this 0.1% or 10% or 20% or 30%? So this problem remained, and the impact of outliers was not sorted. So these statisticians came up with a concept called median. Okay, now let me use this same data and find the median of this particular data. The same data I'm using, minus 300, minus 150, 35129, 200, 500, 700. Okay, and I have taken the median. Now, what my median comes up? My median comes up to be 4. Now can you see that this 4 basically is a representative of these numbers? Okay, now, and it has eliminated the power of or the influence of outliers itself. We need not do chopping. Okay, so because of the lacuna that is there in mean and the problems that are there in trimmed mean, for the purpose of identifying what percentage of chopping you need to do, statisticians came up with a very simple concept of median. Median basically says, find me the middle value. Find me the middle value from this data set. Okay, the middle value, and you don't get impacted by the outlier. I don't want mean, I don't want trimmed mean. Simple formula I want, which gives me the central part of my number, and you remove the outlier. So what I've done is, I have taken the mean, and you see the mean comes up to be 4.0. The mean comes up to be 4.0. And earlier what you have seen, the mean was 97. You see, the impact. Earlier when we found the mean, it was 97. Okay, but now we're for the same data set we are finding median, it gives me 4. Okay, so median came to the rescue of the statisticians, of the data analyst, of the data scientist, which is basically a boon for we data analytics people. So median basically is an robust measure of central tendency which nullifies the impact of outliers. Okay, which nullify the impact of outliers. I've created a simple graph here. I think this graph is visible, right? Bridge, is my graph visible? Uh, am I audible, guys? Yes, I think Bridge dropped off. Yeah, so here you see this graph, don't go in this code, guys, and initially this code looks very heavy, but when we try to explain this code, it is damn simple. It is very simple. Okay, but I'm not going to explain this code. I'm going to explain this concept, this concept. You see this line, this line, and you see this median. Green line is the median. Okay, and red dotted line is the mean. And why it is towards the right? When we have a right skewed data, when we have the right skewed data, or outliers which are which are positive in nature, my mean, and we know that my mean follows the outliers. So where will my mean move? My mean will move towards the right, but we understand by my median does not get influenced. So my median will be fixed. Okay, but my mean will follow to the left or to the right of median. Okay, so many a times in the interview question they say that you have a positive outlier, in a data set. So where will my mean be? Will my mean be greater than median, less than median? So what would be the answer? So this question I'm putting it to you guys. What would be the answer if I have a positive outlier? If I have a positive outlier in my data set, where will my mean go?
Deepak, you be on the screen. I will read out the answer. Yeah.
So basically the mean follows the a positive outlier, and it will be towards the right side of the median or greater than median. Okay, so this basically I try to explain how my mean moves either to the left or to the right of median whenever we have outliers in our data set. Okay, now very quickly I'll cover the concept of mode as well. Okay, so median, let's see what problem was there in the median. Okay, this is the data set that I have created. Okay, and I find the mean comes up to be 17. Very good. I don't have any outlier in my data set, so my median also comes up to be 17. Okay, but when I find median, okay, when I find the mode, when I find the median here, the median comes up to be 3. The median comes up to be 3, which is this. So this median is basically not giving me a true representative of the entire class. Why? Because now you see these numbers, higher numbers, 31, 31, 32, 32, 33, 3 times, is not getting shown in my median. So this particular concept is the median comes up to be 3. Okay, and again this 3 is representative, but all the other numbers, so 33, 33, 32 and 31 and the numbers to the left are not getting represented. Okay, so when we try to include another number, so we tried another number, so here it was 52. Okay, we tried another number, and now the mean got increased from 3 to 31. Now what is the problem here? The median, the median is 31, but now we are ignoring the concept of
these numbers which are there in my data set. Okay, so this time we are ignoring the lower numbers which are there. So median, what does is median finds me the middle value. Okay, but whenever it finds the middle value, sometimes it tries to ignore the higher value as well as the lower value. You introduce one additional number and the median tends to change. Okay, so we come up with a concept called mode. We come up with the concept called mode. Mode what tells me in my data set, which is the most occurring element, in my data set. Okay, that gives me the mode for me. Okay, so this gives me that 5 is the most occurring element here. Why? 1, 2, 3. 3 times, 5 is occurring in my data set. So my mode is 5. And basically this understands the concept that since my numbers are repeated more times, it is the most representative number of the entire lot. And when we have the concept of dual mode, when we have two similar quantity of numbers, see here we have 5 2 times and we have 1 as well, 5 3 times and 1 as well as 1 3 times. So both these numbers are 3 times, so both of them will become my mode. So this becomes a better representation than median. So median is basically based on the number of elements which is there, and when we increase the number of elements, obviously the calculation changes, and my median also changes. Okay, so again here what problem was there in mean because of the value of the outlier, see these are the values. Okay, because of the value of the outliers my mean was impacted. But in median, because of the number of elements, that my central tendency gets impacted. So since it is because of the numbers that is doing issue for me, they came up with a concept called mode, which will calculate the number of elements that are there in your data set, and whichever element is there in your data set as most occurring, they will give you that to be a central tendency. And that is the concept of mode. Mode says most occurring element in your data. Okay, and many a times we use this concept of mode whenever we try to find central tendency for categorical data. That means for example, say in an organization you have out of 100 people you have 70 people married and 30 people unmarried. Okay, so what is the representative class for that particular organization? So that way you cannot add or less, because married and unmarried, these are not numerical in nature. You cannot add or subtract, do calculation for those numbers. So mode comes in the picture, and it says that most occurring. So most occurring is 70% unmarried, so it will give mode to be unmarried. That means most of the people in the organization are unmarried, which is true. Okay, so let me summarize very quickly. I think we're running out of time. We understand the concept of central tendency, why it is called central tendency. We understood the concept of mean. We understood that mean is not average. We understood that mean is getting impacted by the outliers that are there in my data set. We understood the concept of normal distribution. We understood the concept of right skewed data, left skewed data. We understood the problem of trimmed mean, why this trimmed mean concept came. Again, we understood what was the issue with this trimmed mean, fixing this percentage chopping off. So we came up with the concept called median, and median is a robust estimate which basically nullifies the impact of outliers in my data sets. We saw with a plot that my median is fixed, but whenever there is any outliers in my data sets towards right or towards left, my mean tends to follow, and that is where my mean will be either on the right side of the median or on the left side of the median. Okay, and then we understood the difficulties of median that is there in my data set, the problem of median, because median takes the number of elements concept in determining the median value, and that's where when you add or less a number in your data set, the median gets distorted. That is why the statisticians came up with the concept of mode, which basically takes into account the number of times a particular element is occurring in your data set, and that is what they termed as to be the most representative class. So with this, I'll end my session here, and I'm ready to take queries if any.
Deepak, there is one question from Angad.
Yes.
He's saying that if all the numbers are unique, then what will be the mode of the data set?
If all the numbers are you cannot apply that concept of mode there, na?
Okay, mode apply.
You will have because you see then my system will give every numbers to be the mode, right?
Then it cannot be
Every
any mode.
number
Okay.
there cannot be any mode, right?
Okay.
Mode says
Frequency.
most frequent occurring number, right?
Okay.
Okay. In that case, all the numbers are occurring.
Are unique. Sorry, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, but Deepak, one question, and which is a personal question, that you have told us the skill which is required to understand what is mean, median, mode, but you have not shared the wisdom of which one to apply when you have a data set.
Correct. Okay. So the best thing what I say is, whenever you have a data set, people tend to closely go and apply the concept of mean. Okay. And generally when you have a numeric number, we will apply both this concept, mean and median. Okay. And when we see that my mean is say x number and my median is x plus 1 or x minus 1, okay, then we know that there is so why there is deviation between mean and median. There will be deviation only because there is an outlier. Okay, now we will go in my data set and check where is that outlier. Okay.
Understood.
If there is an outlier, and then we can go and chop off those outliers. We'll see that do we need to keep those outliers. Many a times there are two three different ways in which you need to treat your outliers. Either you chop it off, okay, or you live with it. Okay, many a times there will be a scenario in our data analysis that my client says that you have to keep these outliers in your calculation, and then we have to keep that outliers. We cannot do anything about it. Okay, so the first thing is calculate mean and median. If there is deviation between mean and median, that means there is an outlier in your data set. Okay, go see whether you have to keep those outliers in your data set or you have to chop off those outliers, and then proceed with your analysis. Where to apply mode? I said whenever you have a categorical data, that means male, female, married, unmarried. Okay, and then you have to find out in an organization, say 100 people, I said 60 people are male and 40 are female. So now we want to understand what is the most representative lot population. Okay, obviously by seeing this we can say male. Okay, 60% is male. So my mode takes the concept of most occurring. So the highest occurring is male because they are covering 60%. So whenever you have the categorical data you apply mode. I think let's go ahead and see any other question. Why not mean is not equal to average, sir? We have talked about the concept, and this is basically your homework. So Nitin, you need to go and some short courses that we should do to get more employable. I think Bridge will take this query. Monica, then do we have to be an expert in data science to make a career in data analysis and finance? So see, expert in data science is a very what you can say. Nobody is an expert according to me. We all are learning, but at least you have to be at an intermediate level to derive good insights from.
Deepak, we have also received a few questions with the webinar registration. So do we intend to take it now? We have time to take?
Yes.
You have it?
Or should
I present?
I think I think I have presented it on the
Okay.
desktop.
Okay. Okay.
Are you able to see that?
Yeah, you can increase the size a little bit.
Let me try. I'll just read through, I think I'll give the sharing option to you. Okay.
So let me share because I already
You
have
can
it here.
present it. Yes,
Hold on.
I've given you the control.
Hold on. Can you see my screen, Deepak?
Yes, I have your screen.
Yeah.
So
what
the same background.
Yeah. Sorry, continue, Deepak. Yeah.
So background in codes, you need not. So that's what I'm saying. Whenever, so we have this curriculum for finance people, wherein we tend to make them aware and learn data analysis and data science, and we start from scratch, from zero. I mean, zero in the sense you don't know Python, you don't know statistics, you don't know maths, and you don't know codes. Okay, that's where we start from, and requisite is just your enthusiasm to learn. That's it, and the rest will take care. So background is coding is at all not required. I am from finance background. I qualified as a chartered accountant, but I have been working on these codes, and it will come eventually with you. When we started Excel, we never knew to add as well also, right? But nowadays we can say that we have become an intermediate in Excel. Okay, so that will happen over time. You don't require coding, programming languages, preferably Python, because Python is where the world is moving towards it. Python language requirement is a must. Okay, commerce graduate, non-coding background. That's what I said. You don't require coding background. Commerce background, you can come up in this data science without any coding background. I don't have any programming language. Okay, no worries. Lack of programming language skill, no prior experience, validation certificate course. Science background, no science background. Okay, no worries. No programming background. So basically lack of knowledge of Python enough. So here I see, I'll take this gist and say, to learn data science you don't need to be an expert in coding. Prerequisite, basically you don't need to be a statistician. If you have, it is well and good, but it is not what we can say, very much necessary, because eventually you will learn these concepts. Okay, you will learn these concepts, and the course that we have is developed keeping in mind that you have zero background of coding, zero background of statistics, zero background of programming language. Okay, so this programming and coding is not prerequisite in for the purpose of learning data science. Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
So how to start? I'm not sure where to start or what to start. So where to start is, I'll say you start enrolling for a course. Okay, we have a course, online course. So Bridge will look into it, and what to start with. So both of the questions will be taken by Bridge. Need to know how and where to start. No clear idea. Don't know where to start. Not having core experience in data analytics. So my age and the current consulting business. So I don't know why. I'll take the bigger question. I want to be analyst, but I don't know how or what should be my proper steps. I think Bridge, you can have a word with these people, how to start and where to start with. Okay, that would be more fruitful.
I think one of the things which normally comes out and when we interact with is Deepak, you have to unmute yourself when you speak. A lot of people think that they know that data analytics is something which is coming up, and they want to invest their time to get it. Now the thing is, how do we start? So normally, what I have encountered, and including myself, when I wanted to learn data analytics, the first thing which I did was actually I invested maybe 40 hours of my time to learn Python. And then after but 40 hours, after investing 40 hours and learning Python, then and after that I have not used Python for data analytics. So actually all my learning of Python has in a way gone for a I would say waste because I'm not using it. So I think one of the important thing is when we do this course or when Deepak is running this course, you learn only that bit of Python which is relevant to data analytics. So this is a common problem which people face, that if you start, so you need not learn Python to, because Python is has got a broad range of applications. So you can make a calculator out of
Correct.
Python, you have to make a website out of Python. So you have to and you don't have unlimited time and energy. So keeping that in mind, you have to be very crisp. And when Deepak takes you through data analytics, it is that aspect of Python which is relevant to data analytics. So it becomes much more easier. Yeah, Deepak, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just add some few points to your words. That Python is a versatile programming language where you can develop web-based applications, develop games, but you need to understand and learn only those part of Python which is useful for the purpose of data science, and that's where many of us falter. That's where people you say, oh, I have to learn Python, so they start buying Python programming language book. They start learning web scraping, they start learning how to build an application API, and that's where they fall into the trap. Okay, and that's where they tend to become, and obviously we don't know a programming language. We our mind is not that great because we have not been taught programming earlier. So we see, okay, that Python is very heavy language and I'll not be able to do that. But when you apply the concept of data science and use only those part of Python for the purpose of doing data science, okay, then it becomes easy for you. Okay,
And
that's where you have to see.
And I've seen the
Yeah, yeah.
both part of it. And what I've realized is when you are learning Python for learning Python, and then you invest your time into a lot of things which are not relevant. And in business, in case of data analytics, what you do is maybe you will invest 5% of your time in Python, but your mind would be in terms of how to use Python and do my data analytics and get an insight out of data. So primarily your energy and your drive would be to get an insight out of data by using Python. So that's the fundamental shift
Correct.
which happens if you try to learn Python and if you try to do data analytics with Python.
Correct.
Okay, so I think this is what it is. And if I go to the next slide, how to start, sorry. These are a few data analytics specific questions, Deepak, which we have grouped it.
Clearing the large data files and making it in proper order to make it analyzable, it's very much necessary, guys. Garbage in and garbage out concept. You have to clean your data. 80% of your time gets involved in data preparation. Okay, and so we try to learn how analysis is done. We try to learn predictive analytics, which is basically 20% of my job, right? But we tend to forget how to prepare your data for the purpose of evaluation, for the purpose of analysis. Okay, so that's where our most of the time goes. So obviously we'll have to clean your data, understanding the driver. I am not sure what the question relates to. How to manage complex data and analyze using pivot table. Again, I mean, this question is incomplete for me. Use data make me uncomfortable. I think use data makes me uncomfortable is basically when we try to solve it on with Excel, right? When we have the power of Python with us, it becomes cakewalk. Okay, it becomes cakewalk. So real life scenario, guys, you will find data which is worth 2 million rows, 3 million rows, because analysis is basically done for a longer period of time data, using longer period of time data, 4 years or 5 years of data we use. So obviously the huge data will comes up to you. So there's no need to be uncomfortable. Will have to live with it and use the power of Python to help us. Lack of experience awareness is using statistical tool. We are there to help you. I mean, Bridge will look into this data availability. We have host of data available, which are freely available on website. So I don't find any data availability issue. Complex statistics calculation involved in DA, not at all complex, guys. So we saw this simple concept of mean, median, mode, and that's how the statistics are applied. They are not they have not come from Mars. They have been framed and The concept have been derived by humans like us. So if they can understand the concept and derive, obviously we can understand it. We don't have to derive now. So statistics is not at all complex. Understanding of mathematical equations is at all not is not a problem, because why, Bridge, I tend to get this queries a lot. Why it happens is generally people enroll for a course, or say they look on the website, and on the website the person who has written that particular code, obviously he might be an expert in that particular field, and he would have written having that frame in mind. Okay, that is where the break is, and that is why people go on the website and they see these heavy annotations and all these things. They tend to get very heavy and they start fearing. So I'll say that the statistical concepts and mathematical equations that are there in data science and data analysis is not at all heavy, guys. I am not from mathematical background, I'm not from statistics background, I'm not from coding background, but still we are doing data analysis and data science tasks. Okay, understanding how to structure data for analysis, that's again a part of data and cleaning thing. Lack of knowledge in advanced statistics are in Python. Python is basically now the, what you can say, lingua franca, I can say. It is used heavily for the purpose of data science, for the purpose of machine learning, deep learning. How accurate the data decision for decision making, again that's the data cleaning thing. Real time case studies, host of case studies are there on websites. Statistics as tough. The statistics are not tough. All kinds of organizations collect big data and want to use it to make firms in fields as varied at B2B care, improve process and I think this is a statement. It is a very vast area of analysis in terms of organization. I think that's a statement. Okay, so I think, do we have another some other question, Bridge? Or
No, I don't. No, we don't have any other question. I think
okay.
chat may be.
So I think chat, I can see Munga says I'm from different background. I'm from recruitment. How this helped to me? And okay, so recruitment, Munga. So we did a very good analysis of predictive analytics, which says which organization will leave your which employee will leave your organization, and if it leaves your organization, he or she, what are the probable employees that he or she will do poaching. Okay, so basically we did an attrition analysis. Okay, and that's where you can we can use the power of predictive analytics and analysis data science for the purpose of recruitment, or the so for the purpose of recruitment, best fit analysis you can do. So which person is the best fit for your organization. Okay, so see, wherever there is data, okay, just try to understand, guys, wherever you have data, you can do data analysis and data science. Okay, be it any domain, any field, be it. So I have my friend who is into data analytics, and you will be very amazed to see that they are into growing crops. They do data analysis on the basis of available data for the purpose of growing crops. Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable, guys. They use they use the data from weather department. They use the data from the crops, like rabi crops. They want they require what of rain, what percentage of sunlight, pesticides, and they come up with good models which basically predicts the growth of crop plants. I mean, this is amazing. So you apply anything anywhere, wherever is data, you can apply data science. So I think Bridge, with this question, I think we are good to break for the day.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you. And I really, whenever we have a session with you, I really enjoy your session, because the way you explain is, and every time I say that after the webinar, that your explanations are extremely good, extremely lucid, easy to understand. For example, the simple thing like when you took us with the problems of mean and then you went to mode. You went to the problem of mode, then you went to the other one, and that's how it is. So your explanations are very good, and thank you for sparing your time, Deepak. And in future also we want to hear a lot of insights from you, Deepak.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone. You have been a
Thank you,
good,
Deepak.
amazing audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.